The following is a short-lived research project on Slenderman. There are woodcuts, dated back to the 16th century in Germany, featuring a tall, disfigured man with only white spheres where his eyes should be. They called him, Der Grobman? Basically means a tall man. He was a fairy who lived in the Black Forest. Bad children who crept into the woods at night would be chased by the Slender Man, and he wouldn't leave them alone until he caught them. Or the child told the parents what he or she had done. Even then, there was this chilling account from an old journal dating around 1702. It's translated from German, so words may be inaccurate. My child Lars. He is gone. Taken from his bed. The only thing we found was a scrap of black clothing. It feels like cotton, but it's softer, thicker. Lars came into my bedroom yesterday, screaming at the top of his lungs that the angel is outside. I asked him what he was talking about, and he told me some nonsense fairy story about Der Grobman. He said he went into the groves by our village and found one of my cows dead, hanging from a tree. I thought nothing of it at first, but now he's gone. We must find Lars, and my family must leave before we're killed. I'm sorry, my son. I should have listened. May God forgive me. There's another one, but it's actually from a book. So once the Slender Man began popping up in this thread, I could have sworn something about it seemed familiar. I'm an amateur folklorist, so I have a few source books lying around. It took me a while, but I finally found something on W.K. McNeill's Ghost Stories of the American South. Most of the tales collected are transcripts of recordings other folklorists made, but McNeill compiles them and offers notes. A really handy book. So, anyway, this particular story appears in the book's 7th section, Other Supernatural Creatures. Quote, when I was younger, a cousin of mine came to live with us. He was older than me and my sisters, maybe 16 or 17, and we were the only folk we had left in the world, really. And he was the awfulest liar you ever know. Anything he'd tell you was a lie, almost. I liked him all right. We slept in a loft during the summer because it was cooler up there, me and him. And in the winters we slept on the floor, closer to the stove. My sisters had their own room. So one night my cousin wakes me up by punching me in the shoulder. And it's summer, so we're both up to the loft. And my first thought when he woke me up is just to punch him out, because I'm not happy being waked up, you know? But before I could say anything, he puts his hand over my mouth. And even though it's dark, I can hear he's scared. Listen, he says. And so I listen real careful. It's this scratching. Like something on the roof. And the roof is right over our heads, mind you, because we're in the loft. I was a trifle rattled, but I wasn't having none of it. So? I says to him, it's just some raccoon or a cat. No, says John. I heard it before I woke you up. It's like footsteps. Like someone's walking up there. I wasn't taking no truck with that. I told you he was the awfulest liar, so I went back to sleep. But the next day my cousin tried to tell Pop about it, and Pop wasn't having a truck with it either. But one night later on, when we was all having supper, Pop sat up my younger sister to fetch water from the pump we had in back. After a while, we hear Lily scream. And it was Ma who got up first, then Pap. The rest of us stayed at the table because we were like to get in trouble if Lily got hurt and we were there to gloat. Soon enough, though, we heard Pop and Ma shouting too, so me and John went out to go see if they needed our help. All they had was the water pail Lily carried out, and there wasn't no sign of her. At first I didn't understand what was going on, with both Pop and Ma shouting, but by the time my other sisters came out, and they started crying, and my cousin was just standing there, in the yard, looking off toward something. "It's the man walking yonder," he says. And he's pointing out across the field. No one's listening to him but me. And he keeps saying it. "It's the man walking yonder. It's that man walking yonder." You already know it's supper time, so... the sun was setting, and it was hard to see, but I looked over that field at the back of the house. The whole thing lit up orange, and there was this row of black trees. That was the edge of the woods, And I swear to you that I saw one of them trees moving like a man walking away. But it couldn't have been a man, because there ain't no man that tall and skinny. Pap's seen it too, I think. He took us inside and locked all the doors. He made us keep still while he got out his rifle. We waited like that all night, Ma crying the whole time. When the sun came up, we took a wagon into town and told folks what happened, though as I recall, nothing much came of it. John ran off a few weeks later. We got a new house closer to the mill where Pop was working. I still can't manage to look at trees during sunset, though. Especially not on windy days when they all move back and forth. Like a man walking away. From what I've read so far, and based on various internet memes and other sites debating Slenderman, he operates on the power of belief and feeds on fear. As for the operator symbol, for fear of my safety, I won't write it or even draw it. But, there are many debates as to what it is and how it connects to Slendy. Some say that when you're looking at him, Slenderman can teleport, so the operator symbol is a representation of him born to the minds of those haunted by him. So he can teleport to them wherever they are. Some say it represents his face, the circle being his head and the X representing the featurelessness. One far-fetched theory states that it's a window he uses to peer into our world. This is one of my favorite quotes. There's another way of looking at it. Perhaps it doesn't actually mean anything. You ascribe the meaning to it. Since you are familiar with the mythos, seeing makes you think of Slenderman. And since Slenderman operates on the power of belief, it turns it into a sort of mimetic thought weapon. I'm done researching. I can't stand this feeling. I'm really paranoid, and it feels as if I'm being watched. This was a short-lived research project, but I don't want to know any more. From what I've read, he exists based on belief. And if that's so, my research may provoke him. I started all this because I was watching Marble Hornets videos after someone had mentioned them on Facebook. And it piqued my curiosity. And they made me remember something. Something that happened a few years ago. Something I've tried really hard to forget. I was sleeping. And at the time, my bed was facing parallel with my hallway. I awoke one night, after everyone was asleep in my house. I was staring at the top of my bed. I had a bunk bed. I shared with my little brother, and I was on the bottom. And I had this unnerving feeling in my stomach. I felt as if someone was watching me. And it almost felt as if that it was in my hallway. So, being an inquisitive little kid, I unwillingly turned my head to look. Thinking back, I wish that I hadn't. There was something tall and dark standing there, staring at me. It was dark, so none of its features were clear, but I could make out its silhouette. It was a tall, thin creature that just stood there, staring at me. I tried to scream, but no noise came from my throat. Immediately afterward, the thing took a step forward, and I blacked out. When I came to again, it was so dark, so not much time could have passed, and after an unwilling glance down my hall, I saw it was gone. I had no idea what Slenderman was at the time, so immediately dismissed it as a ghost of some sort. I know for a fact it wasn't a dream because everything was so real. The fear I felt, the choking sensation in my throat as I tried to scream, and blacking out. I can't even describe what that felt like. Other than the 1 second, I was petrified and trying to scream, and then the next, I was staring at the top of my bed again. The next morning, I told my mom, and being a narrow-minded adult, she told me that it must have been a bad dream. But watching those videos brought back that memory, and after reading up on them, I want to bury that memory, because if what they say is true, then he lives on belief and fear. I wish I could say that this is just another creepypasta, that, some sleep-deprived teen suddenly inspired to record after downing a can of Monster and reading too many scary memes. I wish I could tell you that I'm just making all this up to give some creepypasta lovers a good scare. But I can't. Everything I've said is true. And honestly, I don't care if anyone believes me. I just want to get this out. Slenderman is real. I've seen him. And I give this one bit of advice to anyone else that's seen him, or wants to be brave enough and go find him. Don't. I got lucky because I was able to get rid of that memory and not think about it. But others may not be that lucky. So I leave you with this. Slenderman is real. Don't go looking for him. And if you do see him, forget you ever did. For those who stare into the abyss, eventually find the abyss staring back.